Hey there, folks. Let's talk about the idea of conflict and cooperation in international relations. Now, international relations, here abbreviated as IR, just to make it a little bit easier to read and not have so many words on your screen. Now, we're going to look at the idea from Shen Jatawat and Yokishawa in their publication from 2020, Kyoto University. It's linked on the website as well. Their title of their publication is called Conflict or Cooperation, Predicting Future Tendency of International Relations. We're going to talk a little bit about what they discuss in that paper. Again, the full paper is linked, so you do have access to that if you would like to read it and have some understanding of it. However, I'm going to kind of give an overview so you are aware of what was discussed and how this could apply to you in your individual course. First thing I really want to talk about is the idea of material cooperation. A material cooperation, again, cooperation, working together, root word co, we know that means together. Materials, we're talking about individual goods, things that you can physically have. So examples of this, we'd have economic cooperation. So companies having trade agreements with one another, free trade agreements. We will buy this from you if you buy this from us, back and forth. We have the idea of aid. Aid can be both economic and military aid, kind of depending on the individual situation between the two states and what's going on. So a state that's poorer is going to want more economic aid probably than military aid. States that have a stronger need for defense are going to want more military aid. Examples of this right now would be in Ukraine, right? Europe and the United States have been providing a lot of military aid to Ukraine as a way of them defending themselves. The United States has provided some military aid to the Israelis as well. Economic aid for countries, again, that tend to be a little bit more poor. So you think of like Pakistan, for example, would be a country that's received some economic aid in the past. Really, a lot of countries you can think of would have this right through here. These countries working together, building that relationship, relational power, examples of some soft power with the economic side, and this aid coming in, material could move military could move into a different way. Shared intelligence, so individual countries having information. This has to do largely with like espionage and those things. So we know that X, Y, and Z is about to happen. We're going to make sure that you are aware of the situation. So you have organizations like the Five Eyes, which all share information back and forth with one another, letting other countries know and protecting their security. We have judicial cooperation, so you're going to have legal systems working together. So this has to do with like extradition treaties. So if you have an agreement between one country, hey, you have this person within your border, we would like to prosecute them for X, Y, and Z. Please send them to us. They'll work together on that. Would you take this person in here, X, Y, and Z? And simply just in ease. You could be easing political dissent, so you're going to be working with the other country or other state within your own state to kind of quell the dissent that's happening within your country or in your state, and then easing military blockades as well. So maybe previously you've had some conflict with one another. You were going to ease that situation and make things a little bit more peaceful, which is always good. Opposite of that is going to be conflict. Now, one thing you could do is you could either reduce or you could stop your economic assistance. So if a country is poorer and you are providing them with some economic aid, you could just simply say, hey, I'm done with that, which is going to hurt them and cause some more conflict because you have a conflict going on. Or you could reduce, so you're not providing quite as much. You could halt negotiations, so agreeing to stop talking and stop working for a diplomatic solution to a problem. Again, bringing you closer to a physical military armed conflict, which would be a definition of a very intense conflict. You could impose administrative sanctions. So you have stuff like sanctions placed on North Korea, sanctions placed on Iran. So where you refuse to do trade with these individual countries or these states for certain reasons, you could place sanctions on individuals. So this individual person cannot do X, Y, or Z. They don't have access to like international banking, things like that, to try to put pressure on them. You could seize their property, or you could physically damage property. Seizing property, again, after Ukraine was invaded by the Russians. You have a number of Russian oligarchs whose private property, which was outside of Russia, like yachts or airplanes, were seized and held by the other governments. Damaging property, so you physically break it so they can't use it. You have imposing a blockade, so you put the military act in there. Again, blockade is considered an act of war in military definitions, so if you do that, you are really getting into an intense situation. If you call it a blockade, but you're preventing the military, preventing individual goods from getting in or out of that country. You could use conventional military force. This could be as small as an airstrike or as extreme as like full-scale invasion. You could also attempt to assassinate individual political leaders, which again could cause some tension between the country if you take out their leaders. A good, more recent example of this would be the United States taking out Qasem Soleimani after he landed in Baghdad, the leader of the Quds Force for Iran. You attempt to assassinate that leader. In response to that, the Iranians have attempted to assassinate a number of individuals from the United States government at the time, like Ambassador John Bolton, people like that, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. So you have this kind of tit for tat, back and forth situation. Things are not going well when you're in a material conflict of such. We also want to talk about the idea of trust. Now, trust, this is a paper that comes from Yana Lutsenko in 2011, states that trust is based upon friendly relations, economic cooperation, security cooperation, national stability, and then individual trust between political individuals. First part of this I'm going to talk about is the idea of friendly relations. This is simply a cooperation or a partnership between different states. When this is happening, there is a trust between the two different societies. So the public of one society agrees with the public and trusts the public in the other society. There's a sense of mutual respect between the two different groups, and there is trust-based dialogue. So if one side says, I'm going to do this, you trust that they are going to do it because you have this mutual respect. It would be disrespectful if they didn't do that. It would cause more conflict. You trust that this is going to happen. We have economic cooperation as well. This is simply where you have the trust of the investors. So individual people who are investing, giving money into companies within your state, they trust that your company is going to be successful, that your state is going to help that company be successful and not intervene and make things bad for that company. You also trust of the business community. So the business, those within the economic sphere in the country are trusting that the situation is strong and that things are going to get better. When this is going the opposite way, you have less economic cooperation that can lead to some deficits and some other problems going on right through there. The recent tariffs from the Trump administration on virtually everyone are a good example of this, how you had less trust in investing in American companies because of the increased tariffs, also less trust in the business community because predictions of recessions, things like that, hurting the economic cooperation of the United States with other countries. The last thing to talk about here is the trust of energy resources. So when we're looking at here, is there going to be energy available, particularly oil and natural gas tend to be those petroleum-based exports of energy, tend to be the large ones right through here. So is there going to be access to these in the future? Is it going to be problematic if we have to get them? Is there going to be ease of access? All these different factors right through there. We also have security cooperation. So nuclear security is a big thing that talks about, particularly between the nuclear-powered states, this kind of idea of mutually assured destruction, or the MAD doctrine. So if you attack me, I will attack you, and we're both going to be out of luck. So we're not going to use those attacks on each other. Disarmament is getting rid of military and reducing your military. Less weapons, less soldiers prepared, ready to fight. Military cooperation, so countries and states working with one another. These could be joint military drills. This could be strategic sharing of information, military information for strikes, all sorts of different stuff. Prevention/resolution of conflicts. So, hey, here's a problem. We're going to solve this through the use of military and resolving the problem from getting worse. Individual peacekeeping missions. So we're going to send soldiers into this area to protect the situation from getting worse and making sure that their violence does not escalate. If we look at recently, the Irish have sent peacekeeping missions into Lebanon to ensure security within the region. And then ultimately the war on terrorism. So countries working together to fight against those deemed terrorist, violent non-state actors within the state, frequently within a number of states, working together to stop those individuals from really exerting control and power. We also want to talk about the idea of national stability. So just like the rocks, you want a stable foundation. It's this trust in the institutions. Is the stability of the state going to stay, or is the state in danger of failing? We have population support. So does the general public support the government? If so, the state tends to be a lot more stable than when there is no support or very little support for the government. Trust in the actions of the government. Is the government doing things that we as the public actually feel comfortable about? Do we trust that they're doing things in the best interest of the people, or are they just doing some crazy things in the best interest of themselves? That's going to damage national stability. Trust and harmony within society. Do individuals within the community trust one another to work together, or are there going to be some distrust and disharmony among individuals As you can imagine, when you don't trust the person you're trying to work with or sitting across from or driving down the street next to, there's going to be a little bit more tension in that state. Last thing we want to talk about is trust between individuals. So is there a friendly atmosphere among individuals within a state? Are they willing to discuss different ideas and political dialogue? Do they have a mutual understanding? And is there a shared point of view? Obviously, all of these are not going to be present among every single person, but kind of as a general kind of set of standards for the whole society. More or less, are these present? If so, great. The society is going to be much more stable. If not, you could be getting into some possible problems. Comments or questions, let me know. I'll see you later. Good luck.